Welcome back. You're watching a conversation we're having with President Jacob Zuma following his State of the Nation address on Thursday. Mr. President, just a couple of quick ones, if I may. The land question. I have a guy who posted on our Facebook page, Andile Noganda, saying if, by your own acknowledgement, we haven't made as much progress as we should have made, and the willing buyer, willing seller principle is really not working in our favor. What is your personal view about what needs to be done?
Well, firstly, I think the issue of land is quite a very serious issue in any country. For an example, I mentioned the fact that 2013, it will be a centenary of the Land Act, and everyone would know what the Land Act did. It made people who had land suddenly to have no land at all. And there have been a lot of systems and laws thereafter. So by the time we arrive at 1994, that issue had remained a serious issue. That's why we had to emerge with a system that will address the question of the land. And this question, therefore, of the restitution of the land, the land claims, etc., and therefore the willing seller, willing buyer issue, so that you did not have a situation that suddenly put other people into difficulties. And we thought it would work, and I think it did move, and I think I said we have only been able to deal with that issue, 8% only. What I said, the system of willing seller, willing buyer, has not as yet worked sufficiently, and therefore we need to look at it. That's why there is a green paper that has emerged from the Department of Rural Development to re-look into the issue. And we are calling upon all citizens to participate, because it's an issue very central to the poverty in this country that affects the majority. How do we deal with it without going out of our way, or without, in a sense, infringing on the constitutional provisions? We need to come together and discuss. I don't think I can sit here and say this is a solution. This solution needs all of us in the country to say what is the best system we can come up with that will address the plight of the poor, but not disadvantage those who must have been using land over a period. Certainly, in the green paper, we are looking for an example as to, do we have to use the market value system? And we are looking at a situation where people could go out there and evaluate the real value of the land, rather than to put a generalized statement, the market values. Because markets can come up and down, they fluctuate. If we are dealing with a national issue, you need to deal with it as fairly as possible. And this is what we are trying to do now through this bill that we are introducing, or the green paper at the moment, that will end up with us having to go to Parliament so that we legislate about this issue.
Mr. President, Xolani Mbanjwa posted on our Facebook page saying, what has happened to the ministerial handbook? Because for a very long time, over the past couple of years, we've had incidents of ministers being accused of this, that, and the other thing. And a lot of them, frankly, didn't break the law, but they pointed to a necessity, perhaps, that we should relook the whole ministerial handbook. What happened to that process, and do we know why it is delaying?
Well, of course, the issue couldn't be dealt with by everybody else. I think there's a very specific department that has the authority to deal with this, the Public Administration Department, and it has been dealing with it, and I think it has also correctly looked at the other institutions who could help make a contribution, like where the remunerations, for an example, are determined. I think it is in the process. My information is that within the first quarter of this year, there will be a final kind of response, and it will be presented to Cabinet. And I think it will be very helpful, because as you correctly say, some people operating within the ministerial handbook were looked at by people who don't know the rules as if they were doing something wrong. So we are looking forward to it being presented so that we can have a ministerial handbook that is in keeping with the demands as well as with the responsibilities.
The other thing someone said they missed from your speech was, in fact, what is going to happen to those people who fall out of the radar, the people who don't look for employment, the people who have basically given up. What message of hope is the government giving those categories of people who have just stopped caring? That's one of the messages that we got.
Well, one would not know exactly who are those people, because there could be a number of categories. Are these people like the man you talked about earlier, who have qualifications, who can't find employment or whatever? Because we are saying we need to find a way to create a bridging way of those people to come into the active economic activities. But there are other people who are unemployable, as we say, because of the history of this country, who don't have the skills. What do you do with those people? I think we've been saying we need to find a way that these people are found, and we all participate, led by the government, to help empower those people so that they're in a better position to find skills. That is why we've been talking about learnerships of people who are working, because some people are working, but if they lose that employment, they will not find another. To say the learnerships are going to be important, that if you are at work, you are given that. I think we need to find a system where we are able to register such people so that we know the quantity, we know the numbers, and we can then say, what can we do? What are the things that can be done by those people in order to skill them, no matter at what level? I think we have a huge challenge, all of us, to deal with that. Because once a person gives in and say, look, I'm not going to look for a job, what are they going to do next? So it must be the concern of the country. I think we'll have to find a way to really begin to work in that area, crystallize the numbers, know exactly, and see those who are ready, or those who have got perhaps very low kind of skills or semi-skills, how would we develop them? I think it's a challenge that faces the country.
Mr. President, very briefly and lastly, your speech was very inward-looking. Very little was said about our place in the continent, our place in the world, and the role or roles that we should be playing there. Was that deliberate?
At the moment, I think we did not want to be dealing with the world only. We wanted to focus very much so in the country. In a sense, it's not like exclusive, because we deal with the world. We kept on talking about the global economic situation, etc. We are dealing with those matters very seriously. With regard to Africa, for an example, we have been looking at how does the AU as a continental organization operate in a manner that promotes the interests of the Africans in the African continent, and therefore its effectiveness, its functionality. That's why we presented a candidate, so that we can have a candidate that we have got confidence in, that will indeed change the AU to work towards fulfilling the objectives of the African continent. We are part of dealing with the problems in the continent. We, for an example, we've been referring to how much the continent is trying to create the intra-trade within the continent. 3 regions have come together to become free-zoned among themselves. And the last summit has actually said the entire continent, we must open it up for inter-trade, etc. We are also participating as a country to G20, to UN. We've been chairing the United Nations Security Council. So it is not as if we are not doing. We've been emphasizing these for a long time. It was time for us to deal with ourselves as a country.
Mr. President, I must thank you very much for talking to us. We have indeed run out of time. Thank you very much for speaking to us. Well, that's how we come to the end of this special broadcast. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good night.